Well, good evening and welcome everyone. You are joining us tonight for a poetry workshop entitled Putting the Wit in Witness, bringing levity to heavy topics here on the second day of our Tell It Slant Poetry Festival at the Emily Dickinson Museum. I'm Anna Plummer. I'm program coordinator here at the museum, and I am so delighted to welcome you, our participants from all over the world, to the festival this week. We would love to know where you are coming from tonight, so feel free to chime in now and you can put that in the chat and just let us know. And tonight's workshop is with two incredibly skilled poets who will explore how Dickinson and contemporary poets have used wit and a light hand to write about heavy topics. We'll invite your participation through the chat space as Amie and Jung provide ample creative activities and writing prompts for you to take part in, and we'll be together for about 90 minutes. We'll also be sharing a worksheet for this workshop, which is linked as a PDF on the event webpage, which I can put into the chat in a few minutes, but we'll also be sharing it in the chat as a PDF as well. And now it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's poets. So we have Amie Whittemore with us, coming from Illinois. She is the author of 3 poetry collections, most recently Nest of Matches with Autumn House Press, and her chapbook Hesitation Waltz is forthcoming from the Midwest Writing Center. She was the 2020 to 2021 Poet Laureate of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and an Academy of American Poets Laureate Fellow. Her poems have won multiple awards, including a Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Prize, and her writing has appeared in Blackbird, Colorado Review, Terrain.org, Pleiades, and elsewhere. And we also have Jung Chae with us, joining from New Jersey. Jung is the author of the forthcoming memoir in essays, Pojung Matcha People, winner of the 2022 Gray Wolf Press Nonfiction Prize. Her work has been supported by the New Jersey State Council in the Arts, Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation, McDowell, Malay Arts, Breadloaf, Sewanee, among others. Chae's writing can be found in AGNI, Guernica, New England Review, Plowshares, Swamp Pink, the 2019 Pushcart Prize Anthology, and the Best American Essays 2022. So Amie and Jung, thank you both for being here with us tonight. And now over to the poets to tell us what's in store this evening.
Thank you so much, Anna, and welcome everyone. It's great to see y'all and where you're from. Jung and I just wanted to begin by talking a little bit about, well, we don't want to talk about anything. We want to show you something if Anna wants to pull up our slideshow and do a little check-in with y'all. All right, so we want to know, what Emily are you feeling today? We know where you're from, but which Emily are you? I think I'm feeling number 1 to some extent, but also number 3, Molly Shannon, my favorite representation of Emily. Oh, we got a lot of 4s. Love it. Jung, which one are you feeling today?
I would have to go with Molly as well.
Yeah.
Love
Skeptical.
Molly.
Got a lot of 4s. I love it. I love that 4 energy, all those colors. 5, excellent. 1 or 2, excellent. Yeah, beautiful, wonderful. Love all of the Emilys are represented in this room. Diana, I feel that. While I did say 1, like, it's more aspirational. Excellent. Well, we're so glad you're here, whatever Emily you are, and we're excited to talk about these issues of levity and gravity in both Dickinson's work and in a couple contemporary examples. But to begin, and Anna, if you want to go to the next slide, Jung and I are just going to talk a little bit about how we came to this topic. So I've been talking for a while. So Jung, do you want to talk a little bit about your interest in levity and gravity?
Sure. Thank you, Amie, and thank you, Anna, for that great introduction. I am so delighted to be part of this poetry program, the annual Tell It Slam Poetry Festival. This is incredible that we are leading this workshop. And I hope to, follow along closely and see who's here. I see Aditya. Hello. We are poetry buddies from New Jersey. Um, so yes, I have to confess, like I am not an expert of Emily Dickinson poetry, Emily Dickinson's work, but personally, I think I was drawn to this program because I was drawn to this question of wit, as in the title of our program, putting the wit in witness. So what is wit? How do we use it? What's it good for? How does it serve our poetry and our work? And then to pair it with this other idea, witness. I think this is a really compelling idea in poetry. What does it mean to witness in poetry and in writing in general? And specifically witnessing through wit, witnessing by wit. As opposed to say, candor or confession or earnestness, as I think sometimes these ideas are contrasted from wit. And so all of this was super interesting to me, and I'm really just here to learn as much as you all. So I would love to. I'm really looking forward to exploring these ideas with you and to learning from all of you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jung. And I love your focus on our title on wit and witnessing and the tension between the two, which was certainly part of our inspiration. And that second piece of the title, like levity and gravity, I often think about Kim Adonisio and her like advice to tell it cold, right? To go cold on a hot topic. And I feel like in Dickinson's work, we often see these juxtapositions of something maybe light and something heavier, something that feels almost out of place in a scene. Um, why these juxtapositions are there and what they can do when we encounter difficult topics, to allow more air into the pieces, so to speak.
Mhm.
So we're going to begin today by looking at a couple Dickinson poems, and then we'll have a fun writing prompt for y'all. And then we'll switch to some contemporary poets, followed by another prompt. So Anna, if you want to click us forward, we'll start with a famous one, I Heard a Fly Buzz. And so that shall appear on the screen, and I will read it out loud. And as I'm reading, and as you are encountering this, maybe for the first or the 100th time, you might think about these questions of wit and witnessing, right? Like what is being witnessed in the poem? Who is doing the witnessing? And where does that wit come in? And you can drop your thoughts in the chat at any point, as I read or afterwards. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The still room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for that last onset when the king be witnessed in the room. I willed my keepsakes signed away what portions of me be assignable, and then it was there interposed a fly. With blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see. Um, oh, we're going to stick with that first one for a little while, Anna. Thank you. Um, so if folks can maybe just take a moment to share favorite lines from the poem, how you see this poem bringing wit into it, how you see witnessing happening, or any other observations about the are welcome to get the conversation going. Yes, that fly is waiting to pounce, right? It knows what's happening. Yeah, I could not see to see what is cannot be trusted. What was is no longer. Yes, that blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz. Assignable. It's such a wonderful word, Lori. Agreed. Buzz, heaves, rung, stumbling buzz. Yes, the buzz that comes twice, right? The word uncertain. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, everyone's waiting in the room. It's very somber. And this fly is just, letting us know that it's hungry, right? Or it has some things to do with that body, huh? Signable that meant that others thought or will think of after her death. But then the fly upended all that. Yeah. Yes, the breath's moving on. Um, yeah, I love all of these observations. Yes, great juxtaposition there between the fly and the king. And I love the juxtaposition of the storm with the fly as well, right? And this movement and stillness. Yes, exactly. There's almost a boredom to grieving. That is so beautiful. Looking at something while being aware of your body's presence there. The breath is intangible, but moving on. Yes. Yes, the wit of the keepsakes and the fly. Do the windows fail because it was? I had never thought of that, Dallas. That is such an interesting point. These are all wonderful observations. And I too found the wit to be kind of circling that fly. Um, it feels absurd almost, right? And also so appropriate. And then how still all the people are around this fly. Um, are they even noticing it, right? We don't know if they see the fly. We only know that the dead person hears it, right? I also love that. I heard a fly buzz when I died, um, as if these were simultaneous events. And then this dead speaker is witnessing their own death in a way. The fly is totally the elephant in the room, Bonnie, 100%. Um, but the witnessing comes from both sides, right? The speaker is witnessing their own death, they're witnessing the people watching them, and the fly witnessing both, right? So there's so many gazes, so to speak, in the poem that our sense of reality kind of collapses. We can't trust reality, as somebody said earlier in the chat. And I think those are so much complexity in this poem that comes through because of Dickinson's willingness to bring that bit of absurdity, that wit in through the fly. Fly kind of opens things up. Um, I have other thoughts, but Jung, I know we are kind of tag teaming in and out. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up at this juncture? Not to put you on the spot, but welcome your voice as well.
I am like trying to keep up with the chat because there are 1,000 thoughts
Yes.
going on, which is overwhelming in the best way. So um, yes, I mean, this is one of those poems that I think it's interesting, from the sort of the multiple point of view. So the gaze you talked about, obviously the fly, has these large sort of round eyes that you think of when you sort of in your mind's eye. So that comes to mind as like the point of view, like fly on the wall. But then there's the dead speaker's point of view. So I think that sort of two sets of point of views make for an interesting observation. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And something I noticed on this reading, and then we can look at our second Emily poem, is how the poem is kind of moving like the heaves of storm between sort of levity and gravity. In that first stanza, we have the lightness of the fly, and then the storm swoosh flies in, pun intended. Um, and we have the witnesses in the room, the king approaching. And then we have, the lightness swinging back through when we're willing our takes away these portions that we can assign, and the fly returns, right? And then whoosh, the storm kind of comes back to take the speaker in that last moment. I could not see to see. Um, so yeah, I just think there's so much going on between these stanzas as well that create this tension between wit and witnessing. Wonderful. Um, so, Jung, do you want to look at our next Emily example, and then we'll get to some writing?
Sure. So yes, moving away from the dead speaker, death and grief for a bit, maybe grief of another kind. This one is poem 732, number 732, written in 1864. So Emily Dickinson was born in 1830, so she would have been 34 around this time. So, I mean, what I love more than anything is close reading, reading together in community. So this is wonderful. I love what you all are doing. So let's keep up with that. This is a pretty short poem of just 3 stanzas, 4 lines each, and I will just read it and see and listen for what's happening. She rose to his requirement, dropped the playthings of her life to take the honorable work of woman and of wife. If aught she missed in her new day of amplitude or awe or first perspective or the gold in using wear away, it lay unmentioned as the sea developed pearl and weed, but only to himself be known, the fathoms they abide. So I have to say, just that first line alone, I mean, just to say she starts out so strong. She rose to his requirement, and the last word dropped, like all by itself. And the plosive sound of dropped, kind of exploding, exiting the mouth, is already so strong. I think it's doing something to me, like physically. But so I know it's kind of uncouth to ask the question, what is this poem about? And it's maybe just too obvious of a question to ask, but can we just talk about that a little bit? What is, if you had to say simply, um, uh, just what is this poem about? Women lose their creativity and sense of awe and awesomeness. Yes, another A word when they, I'm sorry, awesome A word when they marry. This makes me think of Labor Cacophony, song by Paris Paloma. I'm interested that Ed doesn't use verse, I'm sorry, in this one, but gives us a she. Yes. So yes, Dickinson uses, this is the speaker. Let's talk about the speaker then. Yes, well, let's just say a word or two about what is this poem about. I think the first stanza gives us a lot there. I mean, we have this almost like this with an attitude, right? The speaker says, honorable work right? It's not just work, but honorable, but like with a so and then playthings of her life, right? That word plaything. Um, so what do we think of the attitude of this speaker? Okay, it makes me think of how Spanish people use the same word for women and for wife. Okay. Sense of loss. Okay, yes. Dropped, right? Um, she leaves everything and no one knows the pearls and the weeds. Okay. Okay. So you're already on to the end of the poem. So you're ahead of us. So, okay, ironic, lightly sarcastic. Yes. So the wit comes in right away, right? Um, ironic, wry, sarcastic, but lightly sarcastic. Some people, I maybe it'll pass like maybe it can the speaker maybe in her mind she is speaking in kind of an earnest way. Who knows? But in 2025 diction, honorable work of woman and of wife, playthings of her life, sounds a bit sarcastic, right? And sardonic, snide, all those words. Um, mocking, um, also feels satirical, yes. All the great S words, scorn, kind of comes through, right? Um, Yes, and I love the image of gold wedding band. Oh, yes. So let's get to the second stanza. As we move to the second stanza, um, there's this, is anyone else tripped up by this kind of if ought or this, construction? If ought she missed in her new day of amplitude. So if ought she missed like of, and then there's or, um, honorable according to society, yes. So I guess I'm just really tripped up by if ought. Like I don't know if that's an idiomatic expression from 19th century. Um, but I'm not aware of it. And so it's tripping me up a little bit, but I think we can kind of read into it. I think that ought, instead of like ought, OUGHT equals, it says, oh, okay. Elizabeth says nothing. Okay. When I think of ought, it's like it almost has like that moral imperative, like ought to. So if anything she missed, I think that's it. Okay, so if anything, so instead of ought, if we replace ought with AUGHT, if ought she missed, I think that might be a little easier. That makes our meaning a little bit easier. Um, ought is something. Yes, it is obligation. So yes, if she missed anything in her new day, let's just kind of unpack that a little bit. So yes, of awesomeness, of what is she missing? She would be missing her amplitude, which is such a lofty word. It's about waves, right? And awe, which is like spellbinding. And then there's the first prospective, not perspective, but prospective, as in like prospect. And when I think of prospect, I think of possibility. Um, and not just any possibility, but it says first perspective. So it's like the first instinct, almost like this is what she was meant to do, but she's going to miss all that. I think someone mentioned gold, as in like the gold wedding ring. That's a nice reference. Does anybody else think of gold in any other way besides like as a wedding ring? Okay, primordial imperative to be. Yes, I love that. Primordial imperative. So yes, the first she uses like she could have said primordial, but no, she's gonna just keep it very like dry, cut and dry, very like first. Um, gold in using wear away. Yes, amplitude and awe were called playthings in the first stanza. Um, so yeah, so there you go. So playthings is a kind of almost like a dismissive way to talk about what she had to drop, to become a wife. Um, going back to that speaker, is this speaker married or is this someone outside, like witnessing what's going on to this wife? I like the notion of gold inside her. If she in her day of outsider, yes, I agree, Julia. Um, so yeah, I feel like the speaker is not the wife, right? So she's almost like saying, right, what is she saying? Like she's witnessing what's going on, perhaps as like an older woman, um, looking at like younger women who's going through this becoming a wife in this patriarchy. It's a patriarchal society of 19th century. So yes, I view the speaker as someone who was close to this woman before she was married and is witnessing how the woman is changing, but the speaker is not married. Right on. Yes, I agree. The speaker is kind of, she is, so yes, she is speculating what would happen, right, to this younger woman. It's almost like she's witnessing what's going on, and it's almost like what do you call that when you don't want something to happen because this is this is bad news down the road. um okay, noticing her disassociation. On point, Chris. Okay. um I think it's both the real person and also general pattern she sees in society. Yes, I agree. It could be. We don't know. Um, so yeah, I mean, so let's talk about this a little bit more from like I'm always interested in like the grammatical construction and words themselves, what they could mean. And like the second stanza starts with if. It's actually like a if then kind of construction, right? I read it like that. So like she had missed if she misses these things, then, and we get the then answer in the third and final stanza. Sought the first prospective goal. Yes. And so, yes, it lay unmentioned. And there's that curious it. So, what is the it again? What is being unmentioned? At 34, she would have been working on midlife transition and to inner self knowing. Yes, 34 would have been like our 54 probably, right? 34. So 54 is the new 34 of 1864. Yes, the word. Oh, you guys are moving too fast. Okay. She sacrificed her dreams and carries loss deeply. Himself has no clue. Okay, so let's get into the third stanza. I've been writing in sentences lately. So yes, we are now in the sea with the pearls and the weed and deep fathoms. So are we still being witty here? Like we saw wit in the first stanza, we saw witness. And then what is being unmentioned? What's she missing in her new role? her amplitude and awe. Yeah, all of that is captured in the it, I think. And it lays unmentioned, like deep in the seas, right? And then we have the pearl as well as the weed. Perhaps opposites, perhaps not, because we love seaweed as well, just as valuable. Um, Let me ask you about himself. Is this the same? Is this like her husband? Who is himself? It says, Clark says, has the identity of him changed? Very good question. I was going to ask the same question. Is there a husband in his requirement and a male God figure in himself? What do you think? I don't mean to like put you on the spot, Amie, but like anything you want to chime in at this point, like his requirement and himself, there's that
Yeah, no, I was
mysterious
mesmerized by
him.
the chat. We have so many smart readers in this room. I
Yeah.
did see himself. I wonder if there is an intentional doubling here, right? That the himself is speaking to um, a higher power in this final one, um, but also is there like a dusting of the husband still there, but only to himself be known, almost like she is closed off perhaps from those playthings her earlier life, and so can only be known even if it's approximately by this husband, because this becomes the primary relationship in some way. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so much in these tiny poems. It's amazing.
There is a lot. Yeah. In just so yeah, there is that doubling. She kind of loops back to referencing this male figure, but I tend to agree that it could be read as the husband, um, you know, as the husband because she, as we know famously, Dickinson was very private person, and maybe this is referencing a little bit of that sort of privacy to domestic life. But I'm also kind of leaning toward the idea of godly figure here, especially because we're kind of in the territory of like loftiness, um, fathoms they abide. We're in the seas. There's definitely sort of, I feel like less than wit. In the third stanza, I get more of sincerity, something
Mhm.
a little bit more candor from her. It's sort of a really lofty observation, but it's like she is making a statement, but it's like really kind of just dead on point
Yeah.
and hits the spirit and not the intellect so much. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I do feel like she's in sort of the fullness of witnessing there, right? Like witnessing from almost a zoomed out lens of the enormity of what a woman loses and what hides within through marriage. I would love to keep talking about this poem, but we have some delightful writing prompts for you all and a couple more poems. So I do think we should move on to our first prompt, and hopefully these discussions have gotten the wheels of creativity moving. So our first prompt is going to involve a little interaction from y'all. So Anna, if you want to go ahead a slide. Um, Step one, if your first name begins with A through L, so first half of the alphabet, I want you to drop a concrete object in the chat that you find playful in some way. Don't overthink it, just put some lighthearted objects in the chat. For those of you M through Z, you're going to put an abstract word that feels heavy to you. Um, so a heavy feeling, a heavy idea, anything like that. And then you can already see we have a delicious list of things and delicious juxtapositions. I saw spatula and death, and I am here for that poem. Um,
Yes.
flower and despair, gingerbread cookies and separation. So we'll take about running a little bit behind. So we'll take about like 6 minutes for you to grab two items or more that you're drawn to, and just start writing. You won't really have time to write a full poem, but we'd love to have you time to generate some things, leave with a poem seedling, as I like to put it. So we'll take about 6 minutes to write. You can write on your own, and I'll call you back in just a few moments. But enjoy this delicious list, please. So I know this wasn't a ton of time to write, but hopefully you at least grabbed a couple words that interest you, and you'll have the slides that you can pull from the website, come back to the prompt later when you have more time. So just finding a good stopping place. And there were just so many great words there. I just thought about helpless and crayons, and goods and apps, pinwheel and gloom, a muddied hoop. Like there's so much richness in what you all shared in the chat. And if you feel inspired to share like a phrase that written, like feel free. There's really no worries if you need more time to put things together. Oh, a bouncy Super Bowl and dying, crayons and forgetting. That is so good. That is so good. Um, Paper dolls and solitude, lightning bugs and lethargy. Yes. Oh, we've got some great poem seedlings here today. I'm so delighted by that. Shruti, the prompt is on the screen, and then the words from the prompt are just in the chat. So it's just a bunch of random words that are light and heavy. You could even just come up with two of your own. So hopefully that clears things up. Sorry for the confusion. All right, so we've wanted to take some time as well to look at some contemporary poems and look at how they also work with wit and witnessing, with levity and gravity. And so Jung and I chose two of our favorites. Um, I'm so distracted by all the delight in the chat. I love that you
Yes.
all are sharing. Thank you. I look forward to like looking over it during the next writing prompt so I can like revel in them a little bit more. But we want to keep giving you some poetic goodness. So this round, Jung is going to kick things off with a poem by Amie Gersler. So Anna, if you want to slide us forward, go ahead and slide us again. And Gersler's poem Elegy with Peonies is too big to fit on the screen. So you can either listen along or that QR code will take you to a Google Doc where you can pull up the poem, or it is also linked on the PDF on the website that Anna can drop in the chat again. So you have several options for accessing Elegy with Peonies, including just sitting back and listening to it, which can be nice sometimes. So Jung, when you're ready, take it away.
Yes. Oh, this is so wonderful. I'm just so enchanted by this delightful list. So really we should just do this for the rest of the period, but no, we are going to read some poems. And I think the next poem by Amie Gersler is kind of a perfect segue because it's an elegy. The poem is an elegy, so she's obviously grieving here. But she uses concrete, light, and fun words, right? So she's basically, I think this is something that you all are doing, or you are gathering the seedlings for your great poems after the workshop today. So Amie Gersler is really known for her wit. She's downright funny. I mean, her humor runs the gamut from slapstick to whimsy, and she's got more than a dozen collections of poetry. Her latest book is called Index of Woman from 2021, which was a finalist for the National Book Award. And according to Eileen Myles, the poet, Eileen Myles, she deems Gersler as sort of the master of the sexy mundane. So I really get that. I think you'll see it or hear it in the poem that I'm about to read. So the poem is called Elegy with Peonies. So as Amie mentioned, you can click on the QR code to access the poem, or I think it's dropped in the chat as well as a PDF. Or you could just sit back and listen. Elegy with peonies. Peonies may indeed be the sluttiest flowers, sunk in their ruffles, high on their own old rose perfume. They're all voluptuous appetite, heavy-headed, billowy blooms in botanical drag. They make showy hibiscus and thick pistil lilies look like wallpaper motifs from a more uptight era. Peonies' lives are exceedingly brief. The tawdry blossoms babble drunkenly to passing bees in midsummer till they lose their splendid crowns, which lie shattered on wet, trampled grass. Queen Anne's lace stands by smug, correct, the picture of decorum. Dear Ed, intemperate old friend, a phone call this morning brings me news of your suicide. Angry note stuffed in your pocket after you'd gulped your overprescribed meds all at once. You collapse, wending your way up to the roof. I wept, remembering how you sometimes liked to wear skirts and how handsome you looked in them. Braveheart meets Catholic schoolgirl. Could your brilliance and beauty ever be prized from the fact that you were always agonized, always drowning? I hope the heaven you're in is replete with heavy metal riffs, science quizzes, bisexual angels, endless wildness of mind, and fields of eternally peaking peonies. I love this poem. So did you all hear or notice the turn? Where did that happen? Where was the turn? Yes. Almost exactly midway. Thank you, dear Ed. We have dear Ed in the 5th stanza. And yeah, so it's almost like the poem is cut in half and we get the elegy, kind of the obvious elegy, in the second half, right? The usual sort of the stages of a typical elegy or the traditional elegy is kind of like lament, praise, and solace, right? But here we sort of she really like shakes things up. And so Ed makes an entrance. Yes, Volta. So I guess you could think of it as you could write a similar poem like this as a sonnet also. But yeah, so we get a turn right in the middle of the poem, Dear Ad. And so before we get there, however, let's kind of notice what's happening with peonies. And someone could have written peonies in the chat. And death, right? So yes, Amie Gertzler. It's Amie Gertzler without the Z. It's G, the first one. So let's kind of notice certain words. Can you just drop in the chat some words or phrases that were strong, that landed strong for you in the first half of the poem before we meet Ed? Flowers that are so extravagant that seem similar to this person. Yes, tawdry blossom, sluttiest, obviously, it's right in the first line. Drag, voluptuous, yes, thank you. Shattered petals on the ground, billowy blooms. I circled so many words. They're really like, yes, smug, correct. There's so many, right? Trample grass, botanical drag. So yes, I mean, why peonies? Why not peonies? I like Eileen Miles's, sexy mundane comment because it just, yes, I mean, she is a master like observer of just life, right? She's just noticing nature. And maybe she's not even a nature person, but on this day she noticed peonies and she describes the peonies in so many different ways in this very particular way, right? So many metaphors, metaphor after metaphor after metaphor. Peonies are heavy-headed. Yes, we get that kind of early. So yes, she's dropping hints that something else is coming, that probably we have a death coming. Well, because she's writing an elegy. But yeah, oh man, I wonder if Ed said grass. So yes, so I just love this poem for its observational, incredible observation and the particularity of those observations. And somehow, by the time we get to the second part and we see and we meet Ed, what kind of person was Ed? Can you just drop in the chat some of the qualities that you can now, about Ed now? And how is he like peonies? Ooh, peonies associated with Victorian bashfulness, redolent of hidden life. Wow, thank you for that. Yes. Ed was fragile and vulnerable. Ostentatious. Okay. Peonies are voluptuous with a strong smell, in a way feminine. So yes, a lot of these words that we noted are feminine words, right? Yes, their lives exceedingly brief. Yes. Big hint there. Okay. Ed's life is fleeting too. Outshone all the other flowers. She compares them, she contrasts them from showy hibiscus and thick pistil lilies, right? Like wallpaper motifs from a more uptight era of that. What is Ed like? He's dear. Ed's life may have been exceedingly brief as well, but appeared to have lived it unapologetically as himself, regardless of those who look down upon it. Yes, and yes. So let's circle back to that idea of witness. She's obviously like got loads of wit and, humor going on, unapologetic humor, but gorgeous at the same time. So at one point, does she become a witness? Can we talk about witness in this poem? Could your brilliance and beauty ever be prized? Flower display shows, and the fact that he was always drowning, flowers in vases of water, finding a note in his pocket. Thank you. Yes. So she becomes a literal witness of this physical object left behind, which connects them. Oh, Ophelia complex. Say more. The overprescribed drugs, the fact that he didn't fit in. Yes. So yeah, she witnessing and celebrating his queerness. Thank you. Thank you. So that was, yes. So she becomes a witness to his beauty, right? His queer beauty. He was too beautiful, maybe, to, beauty ever be prized. She asked that question toward the end. Could your brilliance and beauty ever be prized from the fact that you were always agonized, always drowning? Um, the specificity of her vision of heaven for Ed. Yes, it's gorgeous. I agree. It's so gorgeous toward the end. I hope the heaven you're in is replete with heavy metal riffs, science quizzes, bisexual angels, endless wildness of mind, and feelness of eternally peaking peonies. The last line, we're out in the field of peaking peonies, but she goes like she runs the gamut again, right? She's even as she imagines a heaven for Ed, um, heavy metal riffs and science quizzes, just concrete, really fun um, things. Yes, eternally peaking peonies. So I feel like some of the lines that you all came up with in the chat, you dropped in the chat, can totally be the seedling, as Amie mentioned, for a poem that brings in a heavy topic, as in this case, a suicide. Is anything else you might want to chime in on, Amie?
Um, no, it's just a beautiful discussion of the poem and this wonderful juxtaposition of the peonies with the grief and the beauty of the person lost, our dear Ed. Um, yeah, I loved everyone's note of just the power, the profoundness of this gift to witness someone so fully, to see their anger, their exuberance, and their fragility all at once. Um, and I feel like it's such a beautiful companion to the Dickinson poems that we've talked about as well, which also have elements of death and mourning, and that fly kind of reminds me of the peonies in a way, has that kind of same almost disruptive energy to a moment that feels like it should be purely solemn, right? It's that once that life is. I'm going to use this as a chance to segue to our last example poem. So we have a little bit of time to write for our second prompt at the end. Um, and we're going to be looking at a Matthew Olsman poem. Olsman's a very talented and I would say witty poet. And his wit comes through in that keen intelligence, right? Like some of his poems are funny, and I think there is some smidges of humor in the poem I'm going to read. But his wit really shines through in like how he's able to break things down and look at them with that cold sharpness that lets us see things more clearly. So that is the kind of wit I see at work in this poem. It is a bit of a longer poem, but I love it so much, and it felt so powerfully timely um, that I still wanted to read it. So just sit back, relax into this page and a half long poem. And it is available at that QR code as well as on the PDF dropped in the chat. So this is Letter to Bruce Wayne. A good place to hide a drop of water is a stream. A good place to hide a stream is beneath an ocean. A good place to hide a man is among thousands of men. Watch how they rush through the city like water through a ravine. I've searched many famous cities for you. There are 3 listings for Bruce Wayne in Houston, 2 in Pittsburgh, 1 in Miami, and 1 in LA. In Tampa, Bruce Wayne is a retired chemistry teacher. In Flagstaff, he drives a taxi and hopes to procure a diamond for his soon-to-be fiancée. A good place to hide a star is a galaxy. A good place to hide a galaxy is a universe. Look at the night sky. Just to be a cowl and cape, the flicker of wings under an etiolated moon. And you, like a gargoyle, crouched atop some stone edifice. To conceal a universe, place it in a multiverse, that hypothetical clash of alternate realities. The dilemma of the word alternate is how it implies a norm, a progenitor stream from which the alternate diverges. Which the alternate? Which is right here, right now? There is no such thing as Gotham City, but here is Gotham City, and I've been so naive, believing the truth of the old mythologies. How they promised a recognizable villain, a clown with a slashed mouth, a lunatic's laugh. In the universe where I exist, supervillains look like everyone else. Give them an old flannel to wear and a square jawline to smile at the world. They're hanging a noose in the middle school bathroom. They're shouting, "Get out of my country," from the window of a passing car. They're pulling a pistol in a crowded barroom or bus stop or the middle of the street. They could be anyone. They could be everywhere. A good place to hide a sociopath is a full-length mirror. A good place to hide that mirror is the heart of America. In the battle of good versus evil, I was so sure good would win. Now I just something good will survive, get a job cutting hair or selling cars, make it home for dinner. I suspect there's a parallel dimension where you, vigilante, long for this as well. To have a normal life is victory enough. To remain anonymous and not be spat upon on the subway. In Boston, Bruce Wayne owns a pawn shop. In Milwaukee, he plays pinochle and feeds stray cats. In New Hampshire, he goes fly fishing on the Sugar River, reels in one brook trout after another. When he removes the hook from a mouth, he might place the fish in a cooler, or he might set it back into a stream, the alternate or the original, no longer certain in which he stands. All right. Thank you all for your help in getting the poem accessible to folks in the chat. Y'all are great. A long poem, a lot to unpack that we will touch on as much as we can. But first, I just welcome general impressions, what resonated with you in terms of lines or imagery, how the idea of Bruce Wayne manifest the poem, wherever you want to go. That's darker than any Batman film. Yeah, Rebecca, that is on point. The repetition of a good place to hide. Yes, yes, we've got Quasimodo there. The micro layers, I love that. All potential heroes and villains. A lot of big fears. Yeah, I love the stanza, "A good place to hide." Oh, Diana, you are so welcome. This is from his book, Constellation Route, which is just stunning and has a lot of epistolary poems in it. So if you're drawn into that epistolary poem as well, that format, I would highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, Nina, it really touches on the mythology around Batman, right? Like Batman becomes Batman because of the trauma of losing his parents, right? The trauma makes the hero, and it kind of calls into question, right? Like what makes heroes, what makes villains? Would we rather be normal and not experience the trauma to become a hero? Like, yes, like I wish we didn't need heroes. Clash of fiction and reality. Yes, Bonnie, that is something that I think really draws on the idea of wit in the poem, that this blending of fictional character with reality and seeking the fictional in real life to try to make sense of reality.
I also find that tension between like
Exactly.
sincerity and witty lines, like "A good place to hide a star is a galaxy." That whole "Good
Mhm.
place," that series is very witty. But like it's mentioning all of the different types of Bruce Waynes is just so not poeticized and so earnest. And so I think that tension between like earnestness and candor and wit, a very nice balance throughout the poem, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And this idea of all of the Bruce Waynes like hiding in plain sight, like the stars in the galaxy, like the galaxy in a multiverse. Um, yes, the accretion of layers. And I love it was a little farther up, but this idea of the witness from almost a galactic or even multiverse perspective, right? Like, what is a reality and how do we make sense of it when the concepts of good and evil start to collapse and overlap? Yes, pay attention. There is just enough element of light at the end, Deb, to make the poem not totally um, full of despair. Yeah. Um, mhm. Yeah. Yeah, the use of the fictional to get at the real is so powerful in the poem. Um, and I kind of love the idea of even if it was invented of Olsman actually like looking up these Bruce Waynes, right? Like I'm like, I just like am like going to an old school phone book and looking for them and then imagining their lives. There is something so um charming about that in a poem that is also so full of the grittiness of reality. Um, yes, yes, Ella, this idea that the supervillain is multiple people. It's not someone easily recognizable with the lunatic's laugh and the ruby slashed mouth of the clown, right? It is more general. It is hidden, and it's kind of hidden in potentially plain sight, right? It could be the person in the old flannel with the square jawline, smiling at the world. Yeah. Um, so yeah, these are all the reasons I wanted to share this poem with you all. And I also like the epistolary as just a way of getting into difficult topics as well. Writing a letter to someone fictional can be a way to come at a slant, to tell it slant, if you will, a variety of topics. So we do have one more prompt, but before we go over to that, I just want to make sure, Jung, are there any other thoughts you wanted to share about the poem before we do a little bit of writing?
No, I think I did. I think I already did. And this is such a rich and layered poem. I think we could study it for a whole semester. It's so timely. I'm so glad you brought this in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's one of those poems that you wish wasn't timely, but alas. Um, Oh, I love all these like book recs that we're getting in here as well. Nate Marshall writing to and about the other Nate Marshall. Brian Doyle has an essay about the other Brian Doyle. So another writing prompt, like find all of the other yous and write about them. That could be really fascinating. Anna, if you want to flip us ahead one screen, you have some options for your second writing prompt, and we'll have a little bit more time with this. I think we can go like maybe 8 minutes. Um, so one, write your own unexpected elegy. We saw that beautiful Gerstler elegy with peonies. So you could do elegy with, even one of the objects that we listed earlier, elegy with pinwheels or marbles or canned goods, and seeing like how that maybe allows you to go into an imagined grief or a real grief that you want to write about, but you can't quite find a way to. So that's option one. And then option two is to write your own, letter to a superhero or other fictional character. Again, finding that slant to maybe get at a topic that otherwise you might find challenging to write about. So choose whichever one you want for this evening. You can always save the other one for later. And we'll give you a few minutes to write and then a chance to share a snippet in the chat in a few minutes. Thanks, y'all. All right, y'all, if you want to just start finding a good stopping place. And feel free to share maybe a snippet of what you wrote or just tell us a hero or fictional character you wrote to. We'd love to hear just a little taste of what you're working on. I was thinking of recipients for my imagined letter, and I thought of Nancy Drew, who is not a superhero, but has heroic qualities. Um, and then I also thought about Meg from in Time. I really just went back to childhood. And I love the character of Meg in A Wrinkle of Time and her skepticism. And I just thought that could be a fun person to write to. Um, all right, so writing about a dear friend, Wonder Woman, my prenatal shaman poet. Yes. Aquaman. Oh, wonderful. Artemis. Oh, that's cool. Superman. Yes. Wonderful. Rory Gilmore. Oh, I've watched myself a lot of Gilmore Girls, so I feel that, Casey. Yeah, Wonder Woman is a great. I'm glad she got a few poems today. Elegy with Bazooka Bubblegum. Ooh, that's powerful. Unexpected elegy with hamburgers. That's great. Jane Austen, Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie. Oh, this is wonderful.
So good.
Oh, yes, an Emily poem. Miriam, of course, perfect. Um, DY, you're welcome to drop something in the chat. You know, it's scrolling fast, but so sharing a small snippet might work better for people to catch it, but whatever you feel is great. We've got just a couple minutes left. Jung and I thought about talking about our own experience, like working with wit and witnessing, but we could also take like one or two quick questions before time runs out, if someone has one in mind. A working definition of wit. That's a great question. Jung, do you wanna try it first, or do you want me to go?
Oh, um, I think it is a working definition. I mean, a wit, I think one way to think about wit is to think of about what it's not.
Mm.
So I think because we've been talking all about sort of the tension, the duality or the juxtaposition between levity and gravity. And so I feel like wit is something that is not absolutely necessary, but is necessary to the extent that the opposite force exists in the work. And I feel like in my work and in others' other works that I admire a lot, I feel like if you're going to be talking about heavy stuff like death, grief, mourning, generational trauma, oh, fun stuff, you know, it's hard to talk about any of that without the levity to balance it. So I think I don't have a definition or even a working definition. I tend to think in terms of what it's not. And that wit is something that we all have. We deploy it as needed. I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think, Amie?
I mean, I love the idea of thinking about what it's not, right? So it's not, for me, I think of wit as being quick, like someone who's quick-witted. I feel like it's something that's sharp or piercing. It cuts through things, and maybe it cuts through grief, like a fly entering a room, or a peony blooming. Um, and I think in my work, I feel like it shows up in I do have some poems that are like gently humorous. I wouldn't say I'm like a funny poet, but every once in a while I get a few zingers in there. And for me, and you can laugh or chuckle. You open up as a human, right? You like are literally opening up when you laugh. And if we can get our readers to open up in some way by a clever line or a surprising turn of phrase or even a joke, um, you become more receptive. You are opened. So I find that to be the power of wit, that it allows us to relax our guard a little bit because it surprises us or delights us in some way. So I think that's the angle I approach with it. Um, I think that might be all we have. A wit, a weapon used when nothing else can do. I love that, Christy. I think that's about it because I know there's some housekeeping things that Anna needs to share with us before we wrap up. But I just want to thank you all for being such a lively audience. I feel like my heart is very full. So thank you all for that.
And thank you so much. This was just amazing to me that we have this community. Everyone is here and so eager to share everything. Yes, please let's save this chat so I can take the next 6 weeks to read everything.
Yes, exactly.
So
Yeah.
much.
Thank you both so much. And yes, I just double checked our settings, and your audience should be able to save the chat for yourself as well if you would like to hang on to some of this. And so you can do that in your little menu within the chat. And you can also access the worksheet PDF on the webpage for this event if you'd like to go back to that soon as well. And thank you all so much for being with us tonight. This is a really just energizing evening of reflecting and creating poetry and digging into some really great poetry. So, a big thank you to these two poets for facilitating tonight's workshop. And I hope that you will go find and enjoy some more of their writing and learn from that as well. And I hope that you will also continue to create your own. The good news is you have plenty of opportunities to do just that this week as the Tell It Slant Poetry Festival continues now through Sunday. So coming up tomorrow, the Emily Dickinson Poetry Marathon continues from 12 to 2:15. And that will be followed by not one, not two, but three programs considering epistolary writing through the lens of a fantasy author. Maybe you could continue the letter you began writing just this evening. Also a program on blackout poetry and one on writing about interiority and healing. And that's only Wednesday. So those program links can all be found in your confirmation email from the museum, and we hope that you will join us. As a reminder, we at the museum are thrilled to provide free programs like this one, which we cannot do without your support. So if you would like to make a donation, please do so at emilydickinsonmuseum.org. Thank you so much, Amie, and thank you, Jung. This was really beautiful, inspiring, and yeah, I hope we'll see you again soon too. Have a great evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, everyone.